Hi guys, today we're going to continue graphing our lines. So you can see I'm using another one of those graphic organizers that has the graphs on it. So I'm going to start in the center here. So we're going to do graphing lines from linear equations. Last time was part 1, so now this is going to be part 2. Man, my 5th grade handwriting is not very good today. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so let's start to work through some of the ones that we have. So like we've done before, I'm going to take this paper and kind of turn it as we need to be able to write on it and then just keep graphing. So here's my first one. I'm still going to be trying to identify the slope and the y-intercept. And then we're going to graph. The only problem is I'm not necessarily going to give you equations that are in y equals form. So let's take my first one here. I'm going to give you 2y equals 4x minus 10. Now, all the ones that we've looked at so far have been ones that have been in y equals form. So if it's not in y equals form, we're going to get it in y equals form. So in order to get y by itself, I've got to get rid of this 2. So this is 2 times y. So the opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. So this is going to be y equals 4 divided by 2 is going to be 2. Then I'm going to put the x with it. Then 10 divided by 2 is going to be 5. So my slope value is 2 over 1 for my rise over run. It's my slope. My y-intercept is -5, which means it's going to be the point of 0, -5. And remember, we're starting with this. So I'm going to back up for just a minute. Turn my paper so I can graph. So I'm going to label, oops, maybe not. There we go. I'll label these x and y, and I'm going to start with this point. So 0, -5, which is right here. Now, if my slope is 2 over 1, it means I go up 2 and over 1 to get my next point. And I'm going to keep going. So up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. And I'm going to keep going until I run out of room. Okay, now that I've got those, I know there has to be other points that would line up in this direction. So I'm going to work my way backwards. I'm going to go down 2 and back 1. Down 2 and back 1. Okay, now that I've got all my points, I'm going to make my straight line through there. Has to go across the whole graph and arrows on the end. Okay, we're going to keep going, kind of working our way through these. So now I'm going to move to the other part of this paper. I'm just going to turn it here. Oh, maybe not. Turn it so I can write on it, I guess, first. So for number 2, we're going to identify the slope and intercept. And then graph. So far, every single one of these has had the same directions. So -3y equals 6x plus 12. Now, again, we were talking about the fact that the y is not by itself. So I've got to get rid of this. So it's -3 times y. So the opposite of multiplying by -3 would be dividing by -3. So this cancels. I'm left with y. 6 divided by -3 is -2, so I'll put the x with it. 12 divided by -3 is -4. So that means that for my slope, it's going to be -2, so I'm going to put that over 1 for my rise over run. My y-intercept, which is my b value, is going to be -4, which means the point is 0, -4. And that's what I start graphing with. Okay, I'm going to take my paper and turn it again so I can start to graph here. So x and y. And I start graphing with this first, so 0, -4. Now my slope is -2 over 1, which means I go down 2 and over 1. Down 2 and over 1. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more just so you can see this better. Down 2 and over 1. Now, I know there are more points back here, so I'm going to work my way backwards. Going up 2 and back 1. Up 2 and back 1. Up 2 and back 1. And I'm just going to keep going until I run out of room. So I know that I have enough points that I'm going to have a straight line going across the whole thing. I know my lines are not always so straight, so I do what I can to help myself. Okay, I'm going to have my line go through it. It's going to go all the way across. Make sure you have arrows on the end. Okay, I'm going to do one more here on the back, and then we're going to move on. So same kind of thing we did before. Zoom out a little bit. Take it and turn a little bit just so I can write on it, and then I'll turn it back to graph. So for number 3, identify the slope and y-intercept. And then graph. And my equation is y plus 7 equals 3x. Now this one is a little bit different because y is not by itself, but it's a little differently. It's left with this plus 3 instead of something kind of in front of it. So I'm going to try to move this over to the other side so y can be by itself. So the opposite of subtract or adding 7 is subtracting 7. So that cancels. On this other side, though, it's 3x, and then that minus 7 is, or that -7 is going to become a -7 on the end. Remember, you can't do much more than put those next to each other because you can't put the x and the number together unless you knew what x was worth. Okay, so my slope is going to be 3, so I'm going to put it over 1. So there's your rise over run. My b value is -7 for my y-intercept. So the point's going to be 0, -7. Now remember, I'm going to start graphing with that point. So I'm going to label my x and y here just because I moved it around so much. I want to make sure I'm clear about how they're set up. So 0, -7 is there. Now my slope is going to be 3 over 1, so it's up 3 and over 1. Up 3 and over 1. And I'm just going to keep going. Now, I do know maybe I can get one more down here. So I'm going to go down 3 and back 1. To get enough to be able to get my stuff lined up. Then my straight line that goes through it. Okay, we'll deal with some more of these when we're together again.